Will, while we're talking about CMC, you got to tell your CMC draft story.
Oh yeah. So here's the abbreviated version of it. Back in 2017, when I was first hired by the Panthers, we were first looking at trying to do some draft coverage. And that year, the draft was in Philadelphia. And I think like Leonard Fournette was there. A couple other guys that were potential picks for the Panthers at 8 were there. So we sent like a camera crew up there. But Christian was going to be at home out in Colorado. So kind of at the last minute, they're like, hey, this could happen. We're going to give you a camera. Like, I worked in PR. Like, they gave me a camera in a bag full of hats. And they sent me out to Colorado the morning of the first round of the draft. And I get his address. And I'm like going over there in the second pick, just, I don't know what's going to happen. And I talk my way through the gated community. The McCaffrey's live in this. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how do I get through this gate? And I just said, hey, I'm here with the NFL for the McCaffrey draft party. And they're like, oh, come on in. So, walk through there, park on his street, like up the hill, because, essentially if he went number 7, if he went in front of us, or if we ended up picking somebody else, I was never there. Like, it just wouldn't have happened. So 7 happens, McCaffrey's on the board. I get the text, go. So I'm grabbing my bags, I'm running down the hill towards the house, get up to the door, ring the doorbell, nobody answers. Ring it again, nobody answers. I'm texting, he's not coming to the door. And all of a sudden I hear just this scream, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed the moment. Like, he just got drafted by the Panthers, and I'm sitting outside in the yard and find out that it's like the first call, like in the draft room, you're always going to call the guy before you actually turn the card in. They call it like the proof of life call, but they say, hey, we're going to draft you here in a second. Congratulations. Welcome to the team. So that was what that call was. So I'm texting. I can't get in the door. Whoever was on the phone gets a message to tell Christian to go open his front door. So all of a sudden, Christian comes to the front door while on the phone with Dave Gettleman. And I have a hat for him. And I said, welcome to the Carolina Panthers. And he was like, who are you? And he's like, I'm talking to the GM, so I'm gonna go. And so then like Lisa McCaffrey comes over. Oh, welcome! Can I get you some food? You want some wine? And I'm like, well, I've got 35 hats for you. So I kind of like briefly explain who I am. She's dumbfounded too. And then Christian comes back out, and I've got his whole family who are wearing Broncos jerseys. I get them to take those off and put on like a Panthers hat. And we have this incredible thing that I captured on my cell phone. And we ended up like going outside, and I took like the draft picture with him and his hat on just his back porch. And it was just kind of one of those moments that was just, absolutely incredible to be able to experience that. And you see just when you see a guy's, it's just a kid. Like, we think of Christian now with his mansion up in Lake Norman and all this. And, back then he was just a college kid that, this was the biggest day of his life, and you got to kind of watch that. So it was a pretty cool experience.
I love that story so much. I actually heard that for the first time last week when we sat and had a beer together, and I was like, well, you have to tell that on the show.
And then, of course, the next day, since no one really knew it, that I was out there, we're all in the locker room, and his parents are with Ron Rivera kind of walking through, and his mom goes, Will, it's great to see you. And Rivera is like, wait a minute, who's that? How do you know him? And she's like, oh, he was hiding in my bushes last night. He's a stalker. So for the next 2 years, Coach Rivera always called me the stalker that hid out in people's bushes.